They say silence is golden, but in the Sterling household, silence was a weapon. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket that smelled of lemon polish and old money, designed to make people like me feel like we were suffocating before we even opened our mouths. I stood in the foyer, the marble floor cold enough to penetrate the soles of my work boots. I had tried to clean them. I really had. I'd spent 20 minutes in the employee bathroom of the warehouse scrubbing the midsoles with a toothbrush and hand soap, desperate to get the grey dust of the shipping yard off of them. But standing here, surrounded by pristine white columns and gold-leafed mirrors, I felt like I was tracking mud just by breathing. I clutched the paper bag in my hands so tight my knuckles were aching. Inside was a tin of loose-leaf tea, aged oolong. It had cost me $112. That was 2 weeks of groceries. That was my electric bill. But Chad had said his mother loved tea, and I needed, to show them that I wasn't just the scholarship kid from the wrong side of the tracks. I wanted to show them I had taste, that I had value. Just stay there, Chad said, adjusting his silk tie in the hallway mirror. He didn't look at me. He hadn't looked at me since we parked. Don't touch anything. Mom is particular about fingerprints. I know, I whispered, my voice sounding too loud in the cavernous space. I'm nervous, Chad. You know how much this means to me. Yeah, well, just don't embarrass me, he muttered. And tuck your shirt in. You look like you just came off a shift. I did come off a shift, I reminded him gently. I came straight here. Well, you didn't have to look like it, he snapped. Before I could respond, the double doors at the end of the hall swung open. The sound of heels clicking against the marble echoed like gunfire. Mrs. Sterling appeared. She was exactly as Chad had described, and yet somehow worse. She was a short, stout woman, but she carried herself with the terrifying confidence of someone who has never been told no in her entire life. She was draped in a floral dress that cost more than my entire tuition, and her neck was choked by a heavy gold necklace that looked like a shackle. But it was her eyes that froze me. They were small, beady, and filled with a cold, biological disgust. She didn't look at me like I was a person. She looked at me like I was a bacteria she had found growing on her kitchen counter. She stopped 5 feet away from me, her nose wrinkling visibly. She took out a handkerchief and pressed it to her nostrils. Chad, she said, her voice like a jagged rock. What is that smell? Chad shrank back. Mom, this is Marcus. I told you about him. You told me he was a student, she said, her eyes laser-focused on my hands, my skin, my hair. You didn't tell me he was one of them. My heart hammered against my ribs. Hello, Mrs. Sterling, I said, forcing a smile that felt like it was cracking my face. It's an honor to meet you, I brought. I stepped forward to offer the bag. Stop, she shrieked, taking a dramatic step back. Don't you come near me. Do not invade my personal space with your bacteria. I froze, hand extended. It's just tea, Chad said you liked. I don't consume charity, she spat. And I certainly don't accept food from hands that look like they've been digging in the dirt. Look at you, you're filthy. You darkened the whole room just by standing in it. Did you wipe your feet, or did you just drag the ghetto in here with you? Mom, please, Chad said weakly. He's studying economics. He's on the dean's list. Economics, she let out a sharp, barking laugh. And what is he going to manage? The economy of a soup kitchen? Look at his face, Chad. It's written in his DNA. People like him are built for labor. They are built for serving us, for carrying our bags, for washing our floors. They aren't built for sitting at dining tables with the elite. She turned to me, her face twisting into a sneer of pure malice. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, boy. I don't know what kind of affirmative action fairy tale you've spun for my naive son, but let me make one thing clear. You are a stain. You are visual pollution in my beautiful home. Your hair is unruly. Your skin is utterly oppressive. You look like you crawled out of a gutter 5 minutes ago. I work, I said, my voice trembling with a mix of rage and humiliation. I work 3 jobs to put myself through school. I have a 4 GPA. I have dignity. Dignity? She stepped closer, invading my space now, peering up at me with venomous delight. You can't buy dignity, sweetheart, and you certainly weren't born with it. You were born with that. She waved a hand vaguely at my entire body. You think putting on a backpack and reading a book changes what you are? You're a bottom feeder. You leech off people like us. You find a rich boy, you latch on, and you hope we carry you out of the squalor you belong in. Well, not in this house. I turned to Chad. I needed him to say something. I needed him to be the man I thought I loved. Chad, are you hearing this? Chad sighed, running a hand through his perfect blonde hair. He looked at his watch. Marcus, look, maybe you should just go. Go, I asked, breathless. We were supposed to have dinner. I wanted to meet your parents. Things have changed, Chad said, his voice devoid of emotion. I got the call this morning. The Apex Group accepted my application. I'm going to be a junior executive. That's great, I said, confused. But what does that have to do with us? Everything, Mrs. Sterling interrupted, clapping her hands together. My son is ascending. He is joining the gods of the imperial capital. He is going to be royalty, and royalty doesn't drag around dead weight, especially dead weight that looks like you. Dead weight, I looked at Chad, tears stinging my eyes. I paid your rent last semester when your dad cut you off. I wrote your thesis paper because you were too hungover to type. I bought your groceries for 6 months. And that's what you're good for, Mrs. Sterling hissed. Servitude, you served your purpose. You kept him comfortable while he was slumming it in college. But now he needs a wife, a woman from a good family, someone with pedigree, not some dark-skinned charity case who probably has half a dozen siblings in prison. Mom is right, Chad said, finally meeting my eyes with a cold, dead stare. We're on different trajectories now, Marcus. I'm going to the top. You're going to be working in a warehouse until your back gives out. It's just genetics, man. I need someone who fits the picture. And you ruin the picture. The bag of tea slipped from my fingers. It hit the floor with a soft thud. The tin popped open, spilling dark, expensive leaves across the pristine white marble. Mrs. Sterling gasped as if I had just murdered someone. My floor, you animal. Look what you've done. You've soiled it. This is Italian marble. Get down on your knees and clean it up. Use your shirt. It's already dirty anyway. She pointed a manicured finger at the floor. Clean it up, and then crawl back to whatever hole you came from. I looked at the tea. I looked at Chad, who was checking his reflection in the mirror again. I looked at Mrs. Sterling, her face red with the ecstasy of cruelty. No, I said softly. What did you say to me? Mrs. Sterling stepped back, clutching her pearls. You dare defy me in my own house? I'll have the police here in 3 minutes. I'll tell them you attacked me. Who do you think they'll believe? The wealthy mother of an executive, or the aggressive, towering black man who looks like he's on drugs? She pulled out her phone, her thumb hovering over the screen. I'll ruin your life, boy. I'll make sure you get expelled. I'll make sure you never work in this city again. Do it, I said, my voice gaining strength. Call them. You think I'm bluffing? She screamed. You think you matter? You are nothing. You are a speck of dirt on my shoe. Suddenly, a low, vibrating hum began to fill the room. It wasn't coming from inside the house. It was coming from outside. It sounded like an engine, a big one. Lights swept across the front windows, blindingly bright. Not just one pair of headlights, but several. Beams of light cut through the sheer curtains, illuminating the dust motes in the air. Who is that? Chad asked, walking to the window. Is that, Dad? Your father drives a Mercedes, Mrs. Sterling snapped. That sounds like a tank. We heard car doors opening, the heavy, solid thud of armored doors. Then footsteps, lots of them, marching in unison up the driveway. Mrs. Sterling stormed to the front door. If this is your delinquent friends coming to rob us, Marcus, I swear to God I will. She threw the door open. And then she froze. Parked in the circular driveway was a fleet of cars. In the center sat a Rolls-Royce Phantom, matte black, with flags fluttering on the hood. Flanking it were 4 black SUVs with tinted windows. Men in earpieces and dark suits were fanning out across the lawn, forming a perimeter. Mrs. Sterling's mouth hung open. She looked like a fish gasping for air. What? Who? A driver in a white uniform walked around the Rolls-Royce and opened the rear door. A woman stepped out. If Mrs. Sterling was a caricature of wealth, this woman was the definition of power. She wore a simple cream-colored trench coat over black suit, but the fabric moved like liquid money. Her hair was pulled back in a sharp, elegant bun. She didn't wear gaudy gold chains. She wore a single diamond brooch on her lapel that probably cost more than the Sterling's entire estate. She didn't look at the house. She didn't look at the cars. She walked straight up the steps, her eyes scanning the foyer until they landed on me. Her face, which had been composed and stony, suddenly crumpled. Tears welled up in her eyes. She bypassed Mrs. Sterling as if she were a potted plant and walked right up to me. Marcus, she whispered, her voice trembling. She reached out a hand, hesitating, as if she was afraid I might disappear. My baby boy. I stared at her. I knew those eyes. I had seen them in the one faded photograph I kept in my wallet. The photo of the mother who who had left me when I was 5. "Mom," I choked out. Mrs. Sterling let out a screech that sounded like a dying bird. "Mom, this is his mother. Oh, please, this is ridiculous." She stomped over, placing herself between us. "What is this? A prank? Did you hire an actress, Marcus? Is this where your tuition money went? Hiring some fake to come here and intimidate us?" My mother slowly turned her head. The warmth in her eyes vanished instantly, replaced by a coldness so absolute it lowered the temperature in the room. She looked at Mrs. Sterling. "Who is this creature?" my mother asked calmly, not addressing Mrs. Sterling, but speaking to the air. A man in a suit stepped forward, her assistant. "This is Mrs. Patricia Sterling, chairman, the homeowner." "Homeowner," my mother repeated, tasting the word like spoiled milk. "She's loud and rude." "Excuse me," Mrs. Sterling shouted, her face turning purple. "This is my property. You are trespassing. I know who you are. You're just another one of them. You cleaned up nice, maybe stole a suit from your employer, rented a car for the night to try and save your son's pathetic dignity. But I see through you. You reek of the slums. You and your son share that same desperate, hungry look. Get off my porch before I have security throw you into the street." My mother stared at her for a long moment. Then she laughed. It was a soft, terrifying sound. "You think I'm hired help?" My mother shook her head. "Gao the gifts." The assistant, Gao, snapped his fingers. 2 bodyguards stepped forward carrying a wooden crate and a long, flat object wrapped in velvet. "We prepared a greeting gift," my mother said, her voice silky, "for the family hosting my son. A Tianshan snow lotus valued at $5 million and a lost sketch from the Da Vinci collection acquired from the Louvre's private reserve valued at $300 million. Gao opened the box. A glowing, translucent flower sat on a bed of silk. He pulled the velvet off the painting. It was unmistakably a masterpiece. Mrs. Sterling stared at it. Her eyes bulged. Then the denial kicked in. Her delusion was a fortress that could not be breached. "Fake," she screamed, slapping the painting out of the bodyguard's hands. It clattered to the floor. "It's a print. It's a cheap poster from the mall. You think I'm stupid? You think I'd believe a black woman, a woman related to him, could afford a Da Vinci? You probably printed that at the library." "Mom, stop," Chad yelled, looking terrified. He was staring at the logo on the Rolls-Royce. It was a crest of a golden dragon wrapped around a globe. "Mom, that logo, that's the Apex Group." "The Apex Group," Mrs. Sterling scoffed. "Don't be an idiot, Chad. The chairman of the Apex Group is a myth, a ghost, and certainly not her. She's a con artist. They're trying to rob us." Just then another car screeched into the driveway. A sedan. The door flew open and a balding man in a cheap suit ran out, sweating profusely. It was Chad's Uncle Phil. He worked in middle management at one of Apex's subsidiaries. "I saw the convoy," Phil yelled, running up the steps, panting. "I saw the flags. Is she here? Is the chairman here?" He pushed past Mrs. Sterling and stopped dead when he saw my mother. His face drained of all color. His knees actually knocked together. He collapsed onto the marble floor, prostrating himself. "Chairman Vance," Phil wailed, his face pressed against the tiles. "Oh my God, I didn't know you were in the country. Welcome, welcome to our humble. Oh God, please don't fire me." Mrs. Sterling kicked her brother in the ribs. "Phil, get up. Have you lost your mind? Why are you bowing to the maid?" "Maid," Phil shrieked, looking up at his sister with pure horror. "Are you insane, Patricia? This is Evelyn Vance. She owns the Apex Group. She owns the bank your mortgage is with. She owns the company Chad just applied to. She is the richest woman in the Western Hemisphere." The silence that followed was absolute. Chad looked at me, then he looked at my mother, then he looked at the floor. He looked like he was going to vomit. Mrs. Sterling staggered back, her hand trembling as she pointed at my mother. "No, no, that's impossible. Look at her. Look at him. There. "We are what?" My mother stepped forward, towering over Mrs. Sterling despite being shorter. "Say it. Finish your sentence, Patricia. You had so much to say about my son's genetics earlier, about his breeding, about his worth." Mrs. Sterling was sweating now. Her foundation was running in streaks down her face. It was a joke, a misunderstanding. Marcus knows. Marcus, tell her. We were just teasing you. It's our family humor." She lunged toward me, grabbing my arm with her claw-like hands. "Marcus, sweetie, tell your mother. We love you. You're like a son to us. I was just testing you to see if you were tough enough for Chad." I looked down at her hand on my arm. "Don't touch me," I said quietly. "You said I was dirty. Remember, You said I would soil your home. I pulled my arm away. She stumbled back. Phil, my mother said, not looking away from Mrs. Sterling. Yes, Chairman, Phil cried from the floor. You are the regional manager for Sector 7, correct? Yes, ma'am, 15 years of service. You're fired, she said lightly, effective immediately, lose your pension, lose your benefits, and ensure that your nephew Chad, she glanced at Chad who was shaking, ensure that his offer letter is rescinded and blacklist him. If I see his name on the payroll of any company in this city, I will buy that company just to fire him myself. No, Chad screamed, falling to his knees. He grabbed the hem of my mother's coat. Please, Chairman, I didn't mean it. I love Marcus. I love him. We're getting married. He turned to me, eyes wild. Marcus, baby, tell her, we're getting married. I was just stressed. My mom made me do it. I looked down at him, the man I had idolized, the man I had starved myself to support. He looked pathetic, small. You called me dead weight, Chad, I said. You said I didn't fit the picture. I was wrong, he sobbed. You are the picture, you're everything. Gao, my mother said, remove this trash from my coat. The bodyguard stepped forward, lifting Chad effortlessly and tossing him aside like a ragdoll. My mother took my hand. Her grip was warm and solid. Let's go, Marcus. The air in here is stale. It smells like poverty of the soul. Wait, Mrs. Sterling shrieked, running after us as we walked to the car. You can't do this. We are the Sterlings. You can't destroy us. I'll sue you. I'll tell everyone you attacked me. My mother stopped at the car door. She turned one last time. Patricia, she said, you mentioned my son looked like he belonged in a gutter. I think by tomorrow morning, when the bank forecloses on this house, you'll be the one finding out exactly how cold the gutters are. Enjoy the streets. We got into the Rolls-Royce. The door sealed shut with a heavy, satisfying thunk, cutting off Mrs. Sterling's screams. The ride to the hotel was quiet. My mother held my hand the entire time, rubbing her thumb over my knuckles. I'm sorry, she said finally. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. Where were you? I asked, looking at the city blurring past. Why did you leave? Your father, she sighed. He was a good man, Marcus, but my family, the Vances, they didn't approve. They were old money, racist money. When I got pregnant with you, they threatened to kill us both. I had to hide you. I gave you to your aunt, thinking she would keep you safe. I had to go back to the family, take over the business, and destroy the people who threatened us from the inside out. It took me 20 years to secure the throne, to make sure no one could ever touch us again. She looked at me, tears spilling over. I sent money, every month, millions. I never saw a dime, I said. Auntie said we were broke. I grew up in the projects. Her face hardened. Your aunt will be dealt with, but that is for later. Right now, it is about you. You are my heir, Marcus. You are the prince of the Apex Consortium, and you will never bow your head to anyone again. She handed me a card. It was heavy, made of solid black titanium. It had no numbers, just my name etched in gold. Tomorrow, she said, you start living. The next morning, I woke up in the presidential suite of the Ritz. It felt like a dream, but the black card on the nightstand was real. My mother had meetings all day, dismantling the Sterling family's assets, I assumed, so she told me to go get a wardrobe. You're transferring to Ivy Ridge University on Monday, she said. You need to look the part. I took the card and went to the most exclusive shopping district in the city, the Golden Mile. I walked into Mason Deluxe, a high-end boutique that sold suits costing more than cars. I was still wearing my old clothes, a faded hoodie and jeans that were fraying at the cuffs. Old habits die hard. As soon as I stepped onto the plush carpet, the atmosphere shifted. The air conditioning was set to a crisp chill. A sales associate, a tall woman with blonde hair pulled back so tight it looked painful, looked up from her phone. Her name tag read Tiffany. She didn't greet me, she just stared. Then she walked over, blocking my path to the suit racks. Deliveries are in the back, she said, her voice dripping with boredom. I'm not a delivery driver, I said. I'm here to shop. She let out a short, incredulous laugh. She looked me up and down, her eyes lingering on my worn-out sneakers. Honey, she said, her tone dripping with condescension. You are lost. The Salvation Army is 3 blocks east. This is Mason. We sell Italian silk. We don't sell, whatever look you're going for, homeless chic. I have money, I said, reaching for my wallet. I'm sure you have a very nice stash of crumpled 1s and 5s, she sneered, but a tie here costs $600. Please leave before you scare the paying customers. You look like you're casing the joint. Honestly, people like you, always trying to be somewhere you don't belong. Before I could respond, the bell chimed again. Marcus. I turned, it was Chad, and hanging on his arm was Chloe. Chloe was a legend at my old community college, and not in a good way. She was rich, mean, and had transferred to Ivy Ridge last semester. She was the queen bee of cruelty. Oh my God, Chloe squealed, covering her mouth. Chad, look, it's the ex. What is he doing here? Did he follow you, stalker much? Chad looked terrible. His eyes were red, his suit rumpled, but seeing me seemed to ignite a spark of his old arrogance. He needed someone to kick to feel better. Marcus, Chad hissed. Are you following me? Get out of here. You're embarrassing me. I'm shopping, I said calmly. Shopping, Chloe laughed, a high-pitched sound that grated on my nerves. With what money? Did you rob a liquor store? Look at him, Chad. He looks absolutely tragic. That hoodie, is that from a dumpster? It smells like desperation in here now. She turned to Tiffany, the sales clerk. Tiffany, darling, why is this vagrant allowed inside? My father spends $50,000 a year here. I don't want to breathe the same recycled air as him. Tiffany smirked, emboldened by Chloe's presence. I was just telling him to leave, Miss Chloe. He's refusing. He claims he can afford it. Afford it? Chad laughed bitterly. He eats ramen noodles 5 nights a week. He uses coupons for toothpaste. Marcus, seriously, get out. You're delusional. You know, Chloe mused, circling me like a shark. It's actually sad. He thinks if he stands near expensive things, he'll become expensive. But you can't wash off the cheap, Marcus. It's in your pores. It's in your skin. You're just low quality. I felt the anger rising, hot and sharp. But this time it wasn't fear. It was power. I pulled out the black titanium card. I walked past Chloe, bumping her shoulder hard enough to make her stumble in her heels. I slapped the card onto the glass counter. The sound rang out like a gavel strike. I want that suit, I said, pointing to a navy tuxedo on the mannequin. And that one, and the grey one, actually. I turned to Tiffany. I want the whole fall collection, in my size. Tiffany stared at the card. Her eyes went wide. She recognized the material. She recognized the lack of a limit. Sir, she stammered. This card. It's stolen, Chloe shrieked. Call the police. He stole it. There is no way a guy looking like that has a black Amex. He probably mugged someone. Swipe it, I commanded Tiffany. Swipe it now. Trembling, Tiffany inserted the card. Beep, approved. The register spit out a receipt. Now, I said, leaning over the counter, I want you to close the store. Close the store, Tiffany whispered. Yes, for a private shopping experience. I don't like the clientele right now. I gestured to Chad and Chloe. They look cheap. They smell like failure. Get them out. You can't do that, Chad yelled. Do you know who I am? I'm a sterling. A sterling with no job and a foreclosed house, I reminded him. Tiffany, escort them out, or I call corporate and buy this building. Tiffany didn't hesitate. She knew where the power lay. Mr. Sterling, Miss Chloe, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're kidding me, Chloe screamed. He's lying. This is a trick. My father is on the board. Out, I yelled. Security stepped forward. Chad and Chloe were ushered out, their faces pressed against the glass as they watched me being served sparkling water while tailors measured my inseam. Monday came, Ivy Ridge University. The campus looked like a castle. Stone towers, manicured lawns, students driving Ferraris. I arrived in the Rolls-Royce. My driver, a stoic man named Gavin, who was also the head of Apex Security, opened the door for me. I stepped out in my new bespoke suit. Heads turned, whispers started, but I ignored them. I had a class to get to, advanced macroeconomics. I walked toward the elevator in the business tower. A group of students was already inside. Chloe was there. So were 2 guys, hulking jocks wearing Letterman jackets. I stepped toward the doors. Whoa, whoa, one of the jocks said, putting a hand on my chest. Full up, buddy. I looked inside. There were 4 people in an elevator meant for 20. There's plenty of room. Not for you, Chloe said from the back corner. She was smirking. We have a weight limit. And your ego is too heavy. Plus, we don't want to catch whatever poverty virus you have. It might be contagious. You're blocking the door, I said. Move. Or what? The jock sneered. You gonna cry to your mommy? Oh wait, she abandoned you, didn't she? That's what Chloe said. You're just an unwanted orphan. I heard he's a dealer. The other guy laughed. That's how he got the suit, probably dealing out of the back of that fancy car. Take the stairs, Chloe said, waving her fingers. It's good for you. Maybe you can run off some of that ugliness. Servants use the service entrance, Marcus. Learn your place. They hit the close door button. The doors slid shut in my face. I took a deep breath. I walked to the stairs, 20 flights. By the time I got to the classroom, I was sweating slightly, but I was calm. I walked in. The professor, an old man named Professor Holloway, looked up. "You're late," he barked. "The elevator was occupied," I said, glancing at Chloe, who was sitting in the front row, snickering with her friends. "Sit down, don't disrupt my class again." I found a seat in the back. The lecture began. It was basic stuff. I had learned this freshman year. "Now," Professor Holloway said, "the semester project, 50% of your grade. It is a group project. Get into teams of 4. The room erupted into chaos as people paired up. I sat there. No one looked at me. No one turned around. After 5 minutes, everyone was in a group, except me. "Professor," I said, raising my hand, "I don't have a group." Chloe piped up. "Professor, nobody wants to work with him. We don't think he's academically up to speed. He's a diversity transfer. We don't want our grades dragged down by his lack of capacity." The class giggled. "Silence," Holloway said, though he didn't look angry at her. He looked annoyed at me. "Mr. Vance, if you cannot find a group, you must work alone, but the workload remains the same. It is designed for 4 people. If you fail, you fail." "I'll do it alone," I said. "Good luck," Chloe whispered loud enough for the room to hear. "You'll need it. I bet he can't even spell macroeconomics." The next few weeks were hell. The bullying was relentless. Someone keyed "trash" into the side of my Rolls Royce. My locker was filled with garbage. Rumors spread like wildfire. They said I was a sugar baby. They said I was sleeping with an old man to pay for my tuition. They took photos of me getting into the car with Gavin and posted them online with captions like "transaction complete." I ignored it. I focused on the project. My mother offered to help, offered to buy the school, but I told her no. I needed to do this. I needed to beat them on their own turf. I worked late nights. I built a financial model that predicted the collapse of the tech bubble in Southeast Asia. It was brilliant. It was undeniable. The day of the presentation arrived. The grand lecture hall. The dean was there. The board of trustees was there. And surprise, a special guest donor was sitting in the VIP box with tinted glass. Chloe's group went first. She strutted onto the stage, wearing a skirt that cost more than a Honda. "Our project," she announced, flipping her hair, "analyzes the tech bubble in Southeast Asia." My stomach dropped. She clicked the remote. The first slide appeared. It was my title slide. It was my font. It was my data. She clicked again. My graphs, my charts, my exact wording. She had hacked my laptop. I sat there frozen. I watched as she presented my work, word for word. She stumbled a few times because she didn't understand the math, but she smiled her way through it. "And so," she concluded, "we recommend a short sell strategy." The room erupted in applause. The professor stood up, beaming. "Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, Chloe. This is PhD level work." "Thank you," she said, feigning modesty. "I worked so hard on this, countless nights." "That's a lie." I stood up. My chair clattered to the floor. The room went silent. "Mr. Vance," the professor snapped, "sit down." She stole my work. I walked down the aisle, my voice shaking with rage. "That is my presentation. Check the metadata. Check the creation logs." Chloe gasped, putting a hand to her chest. "Professor, he's doing it again. He's obsessed with me. He's been stalking me all semester. He's too stupid to do his own work, so he's trying to claim mine." "Security," Holloway yelled. "Remove this student. He is disrupting the academic integrity of this institution." "He's violent," Chloe shrieked, hiding behind the podium. "Look at him. He's aggressive. He's going to hurt me. It's his nature." 2 guards rushed toward me. "Don't touch me," I yelled. "Ask her about slide 14. Ask her what the variable X stands for. She doesn't know." "I don't have to answer to you, you gutter rat," Chloe spat, dropping the act. "Get out of my school. Go back to the zoo where you belong." The guards grabbed my arms. "Unhand him." The voice didn't come from the stage. It came from the speakers. It came from everywhere. The lights in the VIP box turned on. The glass slid open. Standing there, looking like a vengeful god, was my mother. The dean stood up, his face pale. Chairman Vance. My mother walked out of the box and descended the stairs to the stage. The guards released me instantly, stepping back as if burned. She walked up to the podium. Chloe looked at her, confused. "Who are you?" Chloe demanded. "This is a private event." My mother ignored her. She looked at the screen. "Slide 14, she said into the microphone. "Variable X represents the volatility index of the Thai baht relative to the proprietary algorithm of the Apex Group." She turned to Chloe. "You wouldn't know that, because that algorithm is a trade secret, classified level 5. Chloe blinked. I researched it. My dad knows people." "Your father," my mother said, "is Bob Jenkins. He manages a paper supply company in Ohio. He doesn't know algorithms." The crowd murmured. "And the only person who has access to my private server," my mother continued, "is my son." She pointed at me. "Marcus." Chloe looked at me, then at my mother. The gears turned in her head. No way, he's poor, he's black, he's nobody. "He is Marcus Vance," my mother's voice boomed, "heir to the Apex Consortium, the owner of the bank that holds your father's business loan, the owner of the land this university stands on." Chloe began to shake. I didn't know." "You didn't care," my mother corrected. "I have watched you bully my son for weeks. I have watched this administration turn a blind eye because of your donations. You called him trash. You called him a dealer. You called him a zoo animal." My mother turned to the dean. "Dean, how much does the Jenkins family donate annually?" $50,000, the dean squeaked. "I see." My mother pulled out her phone. "I am donating $50 million to this university right now." The dean gasped. "On one condition," she added. Anything, Chairman." "Expel her," my mother pointed at Chloe, "publicly, for plagiarism and hate speech, and fire that professor for incompetence." "Done," the dean yelled. "Chloe Jenkins, you are expelled. Get off the stage. Security, take her." "No," Chloe screamed as the guards grabbed her. "You can't do this. I'm Chloe. I'm popular. Daddy, call my daddy." "Your daddy is currently on the phone with my lawyers," my mother said coldly. "He's filing for bankruptcy." They dragged Chloe out, kicking and screaming. The professor gathered his things and ran out the back door. My mother beckoned me to the stage. I walked up, standing next to her. I looked out at the sea of faces, the students who had mocked me, the ones who had refused to be my partner. They all looked terrified. "Finish your presentation, Marcus," my mother said softly, handing me the remote. I took a breath. I straightened my tie. I looked at the audience. "As I was saying," I began, my voice steady and strong, "the volatility index is crucial." For the next 20 minutes, silence reigned, not the oppressive silence of the Sterling House, but the silence of respect. When I finished, the applause was deafening. I looked at my mother. She smiled. "We run the world, Marcus," she whispered. "Never let them forget it." And looking at the fear and awe in their eyes, I knew I never would.